Here at Viewpoints, we are constantly avoiding any controversy. My goodness, the last thing we want to do is make somebody unhappy. So my question to our guest joining us this afternoon, Michele Morrow, who is candidate for Superintendent of Public Instruction, NC Superintendent of Public Instruction, Michele Morrow, is can I use the word apple in our conversation as we begin the program? Michele, good afternoon. And can I use the word apple? Is that okay?
Good afternoon. And yes, I think you're pretty safe with the word apple.
You sure?
I think so. I don't know. They didn't say anything about speaking the word apple when they sent me my cease and desist to not use it in my logo. This is the NCAE. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that is not a word that is heightened
or copyrighted. I'm intrigued because, there is Apple Computer, and I'll tell you what, you want to talk about a giant stepping on bugs. Apple Computer takes their copyright, logo, and trademarks and everything else very, very seriously. They don't send cease and desist letters. You just they ethosphere. You just disappear. You know what I mean? It's the ultimate. Right. It's the ultimate in cancellation. Gone. Never been.
That's right. There's no warning sign.
Yeah, there's nothing there. It's gone. You have been using the image of an apple in your campaigns, and apparently the North Carolina Association of Educators, which is not a union, by the way. I just want to clarify that for the audience. Although they are members of the National Association, the NEA, National Educational Association, which is a union, but the North Carolina Association of Educators is not a union, so they say. And they apparently own the image of an apple, I understand?
Well, that is their take, that they have a trademark on the apple symbol dealing with education and elections.
Whoa.
And so which is ironic because when I ran for school board 2 years ago, I used a very similar logo, and I had apples in my logo 2 years ago, and they didn't seem to notice that. And I actually used the same logo during the primary, and they didn't seem to have a problem with that. Really, when it seemed to be a problem is when I was found to be leading their preferred candidate, my opponent, by 5 points about a month ago. Then it became of concern to them.
Okay. Now, there's a sense here that the North Carolina Association of Educators, a bipartisan, non-political organization, isn't that.
You're exactly right.
Okay.
And for those of your listeners that do not know this, the NCAE every year passes out an apple, and they at the polling places, and they say, would you like to know who the teachers of North Carolina prefer? And this is the assumption that all of the teachers in North Carolina want these people. And of course, it's everyone that's running on the Democratic ticket. Here's the fact that most North Carolinians don't know and they need to know. Mm-hmm. Less than 11% of all teachers belong to the NCAE in North Carolina. So their clientele, those people that belong to their group, is 1 out of every 10 teachers in North Carolina. So to say that they have the corner on what the teachers want is absolutely false. But I think what's even more concerning, quite honestly, is with the literacy crisis that we're facing in our state, the increase in drugs and violent crime, it's been an 84% increase in the last 5 years. The fact that we are losing teachers at alarming rates, and that we have a financial problem because we have not used our money well in our schools, and we have not prioritized student academic achievement over agendas and activism, that the NCAE would choose to use their time and their money to quabble over an apple on a logo rather than fighting the real issues that our students and our staff are facing every day tells us everything that we need to know about this organization.
The first observation I have to make in light of the fact, and I knew that it was a small percentage of representation that the NCAE, small percentage of teachers that the NCAE represents. I have to question the integrity, not only of their ability to use an image and say they own that image, but also to say that it, as an organization, speaks for the teachers when only 11% are members. That is a really abusive and, I would say, questionable use of their authority and their imagery. I think the fact that they are now the owners of an image, and by the way, your apple is a little different from their apple. It has a different aspect. I think it's related to a leaf and a few other things. Where are you in this cease and desist effort on their part?
Well, my lawyer has responded to them, and now he's responded twice, because he first responded to the initial letters and text messages and emails and said this has no legal basis,
right,
because they were trying to say that it was something out of Maryland, that the Maryland Educators Association had set something up. But beyond that, what they failed to do, what they're upset about is people thinking that they think that I am trying to tell people that I am endorsed by the NCAE. And we made it very clear I have no desire to be attached to this organization. They have, and if anyone wants to know what the NCAE stands for and what their parent organization, which you referred to earlier, the NEA, the National Educators Association, there was a speech done by their current president. The woman's name is Becky Pringle. Mm-hmm. It was a 28-minute speech, and she started it by attacking President Trump and all of his supporters, stating that the need for, abortion care for all, to push the LGBTQ rights of minorities, as well as focusing on teachers being activists. And in 28 minutes, she never mentioned the word academics. She never mentioned career preparedness. She never mentioned the conduct crisis that we have and the classroom control crises that we have. Mm-hmm. And that is what is wrong right now with our schools, is we are not focused on the right things. We are not using our hard-earned tax money to prepare our children to be critical thinkers, for them to be able to be problem solvers and the leaders and the entrepreneurs that we're going to need in the future to remain safe, prosperous, and free. And that therein lies the real rub. Those that are on that side see our schools as creating political activists. Mm-hmm. And I think the rest of us want our children to be able to be functional adults, mature, and thoughtful adults who are able to pursue careers that will make them financially independent and will also be able to use their gifts and skills to give back into the community.
Our guest is Michele Morrow. Again, she is candidate for the North Carolina Superintendent of Public Instruction. We're talking with her for a few more minutes about the fact that the North Carolina Association of Educators, the NCAE, has taken umbrage with the fact that she uses an apple in her campaign literature, shamefully using an apple, my goodness. And they claim that that image is owned by them. So if you have any images of apples in your house, or maybe even a real apple, you might want to check and see if you've gotten copyright approval for possessing it. This is outrageous. And to your point, Michele, on the stupid side, let's go to a few issues here very quickly, because I want to ask you an important question that's making news today, actually made news months ago, but now suddenly making news, and it has to do with cell phones. But a little background on Michele Morrow. Some folks have not heard of you, shamefully. We're going to take care of fixing that. Who is Michele Morrow?
Well, I am a wife, a mom of 5. I am a nurse, a teacher, and a former missionary and foster parent, and I have been advocating for the people of North Carolina for education reform and for parental rights, and to get boys out of girls' sports, and to ensure that our children are reaching their fullest potential in the K through 12 public school system. I've been doing that at the General Assembly for the last 5 or 6 years, and so now I'm wanting to make our schools the best in the nation and an example for everyone else to follow. And I think that we have the know-how, we have the great staff, and we have the money to do it. It just is a matter of how we're going to prioritize those things.
I saw a story, and I'm trying to remember, it was a Midwest city, it may have been Texas, but a principal told the students and the parents no cell phones in the classroom. And he was expecting to be run out of town. Instead, the parents and the students thanked the principal. And now we're hearing that, I think it's in Arkansas and other states, they're beginning to pass legislation or structures to restrain, restrict, or prohibit the use of cell phone technology for students, particularly in public schools.
I think it's brilliant. I think that there are already schools, even within North Carolina, that have chosen to do that in the district. I know as a nurse, as someone with a student that had learning differences and spent a lot of time with occupational therapy and listening to people that were neurological doctors and figuring out how the brain functions, and as they go through these important developmental stages of youth and adolescence, what ends up increasing the health of someone's brain, the neural pathways that are created between the left and right hemisphere, the importance of the frontal lobe development that becomes your logic center and your personality. And we all know that those things are being diminished by the constant use of screens, and that's not even talking about what it's doing actually to their eyesight. I have a friend that spoke with her ophthalmologist, and they said just how dangerous it is, that it's impacting children's tear ducts, it's impacting the way that their eye is being shaped, and we don't know what that's going to do long term. I also believe that students, as they are growing and developing, they need us as adults to put limits and to put boundaries in their life. And I think that's why you're hearing that even the students are thankful, because if they're the only ones to not have a cell phone in the classroom, then they're going to be ostracized. But if everyone is expected to not be constantly on their phones and doing social media and that type of thing, it kind of takes that pressure off of everyone in the classroom.
Florida, Indiana, Louisiana, and Ohio are passing legislation, mind you, that bans and restricts cell phones on the use in public school campuses. You know, one of the issues that has been presented in years past by principals is that the parents want to be able to reach their children should there be some sort of challenge or difficulty at the school, or for the parents themselves who are planning to pick up the children. They want to be able to notify their children that they won't be able to, that there's some transition in schedule and things of this nature. I unfortunately grew up in a time frame when we actually had a thing called phone booths. Now, I know that's something that has evaded you and the vast majority of people listening.
No, I had phone booths. Really, the only reason I got my first cell phone at 36 was because they took the phone booths away. Okay. But my point is, we've seen these arguments presented in the past. Your attitude, a bogus argument in that regard? Well, I do think that we're in a time when we don't have any delayed gratification, and
True.
I think it is good for children to not be hovered over by their parents in the classroom. I am totally in favor. You can have it in your backpack and it can be in your locker, or it can be somewhere so that after school you can absolutely contact your parents if you need to deal with rides, if you're going to be late, needing to be picked up. I'm totally fine with that. What I'm talking about is the 8 hours that our students are supposed to be in school and focused on academics. It is a distraction. We have heard so many talks and so many horrible stories about the bullying. I guarantee you that the bullying has been at the hands. It has been increased just by insurmountable numbers because of what's happening with the screens. We want our children to learn empathy and to learn compassion. You only learn that through being able to look at people's facial expressions, read their body language, so that you can then be self-controlled and determine how your words and your actions are impacting someone else. You do not have that ability behind a keypad.
I Well, I fully agree with you on that. All right, I'm going to wrap it up with you. We've got another guest joining us here in just a moment, and I want to thank you for your time this afternoon. And I want you to know that I'm going to be throwing out all the apples that we have at our house, and we have several. And because I don't know that I have copyright privileges to use them or even display them on my counter. And the last thing I want to do is... Go ahead.
As a nurse, I would suggest you eat them. An apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Oh, is that okay? Thank you very much.
Yes.
I don't want to look. The last thing I want to do is get into controversy with the North Carolina Association of Educators, which is not a union, in spite of the fact that it's a member of the National Association of Educators. Michele, thank you for your time this afternoon. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And if your listeners want to learn more about my platform and how they can help me get the word out or help me to get over this line on November 5th, they can go to my website at morrow4nc.com. That's MORROW, the number 4nc.com.
Thank you very much, Michele. Have a great weekend. Appreciate it. And have a great Labor Day weekend. Thanks again.
Thanks. You too.